No. And we're live.
Yeah.
Hello,
we're here.
Hello,
We're here.
YouTube.
See, I don't want to start my YouTube presence with, my usual response to "and we're live."
Yeah, I get you.
What is my usual response?
Probably winking.
No. And we're live. We're live.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Ah,
Cool.
hey, you just had a me moment.
I did.
Let me rehearse my lines.
I can't put. You must have experienced this before, where I was just like, absolutely blanking.
No, I hear you. It happens to me all the time. I should have just gone with something random instead of the same thing every time. Now people are counting on me.
Oh man, it's exciting. I'm excited about this episode, but I'm excited for a multitude of reasons.
Go on.
Number one, I know for a fact we've expanded our listenership. The MadLibs community has stretched all the way to Colombia.
Hello, Colombia.
Yeah, and I'll make a special announcement. Not an announcement, but like a shout out on the podcast as well. But that's pretty cool. We're being listened to in Colombia.
The largest exporter of coffee.
Really?
That's either them or Brazil.
I thought Guatemala's up there. I don't know if it's
Not quite on the same scale, if memory serves. Wondering why my
Brazil.
It is Brazil.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew it was one of the two.
But yeah, I just think it's so cool that we're actually getting listened to in Colombia. Obviously, I know of them. Colombia's number 3. Vietnam pulled ahead.
Oh, yeah, but Vietnam, and no offense, Vietnam, but your coffee's not good.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah.
Why?
It's usually like low grade coffee.
Yeah. So they're probably pumping it
And
out
I'm not
to
saying
the
like,
Folgers and Hills brothers.
Yeah, certainly, yes. Yeah.
Got it. So they're quantity, not quality.
Correct.
Is Brazil both?
Brazil, you can get both.
Okay.
Yeah, Brazil, they have a lot of like, I don't know what the...
Guatemala is number 10.
Yeah?
Yeah. Colombia is 3.
Where's Ethiopia?
5.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's my favorite coffee.
Well, I might as well just go through it. Brazil, number 1. Vietnam, 2. 3, Colombia. 4, Indonesia. 5, Ethiopia. 6, Honduras. 7, India. 8, Uganda. 9, Mexico. And 10, Guatemala.
Followed by Peru, Nicaragua, China.
Ivory Coast. I'm not going to go through it all. Does the United States export any?
We do not. They were trying... Actually, go down, because I thought I saw the American flag.
No. You saw Philippines, Paraguay.
Oh.
Kind of had the red, white, and blue Cuba.
They were trying to get coffee.
Oh, Liberia is probably what you saw. Look how close that is.
Yeah. I got an eye for that red, white, and blue, baby.
Yeah, the Liberia national flag is
one star.
stars and stripes. Or sorry,
Star and
one
stripe.
star, and then has the red, white stripes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Puerto Rico.
They were trying to get coffee going in California, but the problem is I can't remember exactly. I've been out of the industry for a while, but it takes a while for the plant to mature to the
cultivation.
Point, yeah, where it can produce like drinkable coffees.
They don't have the right mash.
I don't know what they would be mashing,
dude.
Bruh.
They mash it and then they put it into a barrel and it comes out whiskey.
Is that?
That's how whiskey is made.
Yeah.
And then
Don't fact check that.
You filter the whiskey
right
long enough,
Yeah.
throw a grape in it, wine.
That was good.
Then you take that, soak it into a potato, then wring out the potato, vodka.
You know that potato vodka is not the most popular, right?
But that's how you make the really good kind.
Oh, Chopin? That's how Chopin's made.
Yeah, so it starts as coffee to whiskey to wine to vodka. That's why vodka
Then you throw a bunch of fucking flowers in it. What do you get?
Gin.
Gin.
Well, flowers, and you have to throw in at least 3 pine needles. At least 3.
Nailed it.
At least 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2? It's not a gin.
No, it's just a piney vodka. But the moment you hit 3, it is now being prepped like a gin.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
The floral notes and the pine notes really need to come through on a gin, whereas it doesn't in a vodka.
Right. Yeah. Add a bunch of sugar to it.
Yeah. Well, you have to actually put a sugar cane in there. The whole bit, like the bamboo,
I think
stick.
it's more of like a tree.
Oh, this is
rather than.
This is what I just keep doing.
Yeah. You know, I got in trouble for doing that in 2nd grade.
What is it? Why?
I wasn't doing it.
You were pretending. To
No, I was going like this. Because another kid was doing it. You know, I was a follower then. I didn't blossom into the flower that I am now. But yeah, I was in 2nd grade. We were watching like a bunch of that movie day. And you're watching a movie in some other classroom where you get together with another classroom.
Yeah, that's always fun.
And there was like a bunch of sing-along songs, and I was just going like this. And then I got sent back to my classroom, and my teacher's
with the flow.
And my teacher's like, "Why'd you get sent back here?" And I said, "'Cause I was doing this." She's like, "What?"
She wasn't even mad. She was like, "What do you wait?" She was probably mad at the other teacher.
Yeah, I was just like, I don't even know what I did.
Mrs. Lippy just wanted to put some glue on her eyes, and now she can't have her free time.
Yeah,
Because you're getting sent back.
Yeah. Miss Christensen's class. I was in Miss Pritchard's classroom when it happened. Miss Pritchard, if you're out there listening.
What the fuck?
I just want to know what I did wrong. I was fragile then. I didn't like to get in trouble.
You know what's interesting?
Now I'm a real go-getter. Now I'm a real, rebel without a cause.
Yeah.
But I've got a cause, though.
So this is somewhat interesting and a little bit of a digression, but since we're on education.
Yeah.
My school district that I was raised in, formerly educated in, Elmhurst District 205.
Good district.
It is, and they're dealing with something between the board and a couple of private citizens, most notably this one guy, and basically he's challenging a particular teacher's curriculum, who I had.
Oh.
And saying it is Marxist in nature. So, of course, I wrote a small letter, about both the teacher and the curriculum and the problem that this poses as a threat to education. And I think it's a microcosm of what's really happening in America that's wrong. Is like people are reading one or two things, making a snap judgment, instead of trusting experts with climate change, with the pandemic, with education, whatever it is. It's like if you read one thing that pertains to your bias, right or wrong, it's like you jump to it. And you should eventually just defer to someone who has done more research than you, whether it's research like they went through med school or college studying this, or simply read more peer-reviewed articles, journal articles, whatever the case is, than you. Like, if you just read one article on something from some random Facebook site, whether it's the New York Times or something else, you're not an expert, as opposed to someone that might be, practicing that profession for 10, 15, 20 years.
And that is how Brian goes from Kevin getting in trouble for going like this to politics. Well done.
I always bring it back.
Yeah, that was good.
Yeah. And,
And it probably was all the school systems are a bunch of Marxist, overly progressive liberals.
Well, the funny thing is,
I don't mean that seriously, Brian. I don't mean that seriously.
No. No, I would have started the funny thing.
Are you listening?
I wouldn't have started with the funny thing is about that is, I had her in a curriculum that definitely could have swung left or right. And she didn't. She was very center, like in general. Like, I had teachers that were probably actually Marxist.
Yeah.
And
there was a teacher in Shiite. I can't remember what it is. I'll look up the video one day when I have time. And there's a teacher who's like he's probably going to lose his job because he was like teaching a bunch of like not weird stuff, but stuff that like maybe wasn't appropriate for kids of that certain age group.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, it depends. You know, it's interesting in the sense that you see this a lot with like, and I just Googled it, critical race theory, because I haven't actually heard it being taught as a curriculum in any classroom. And like, this is just like such a platform move by, you know, one side versus the other. It's like staging this fake enraged cancel like culture from the right, and it's like you know, no classes are actually being taught in critical race theory, at least at the public education level, like the K through 12 level. You know, which in itself is like, well, why are we trying to derail teaching actual history, right? Instead of teaching the whitewashed, you know, textbook from 25 years ago, because schools have been too poor to invest in new textbooks. But here nor there, I was just like, man, it's infiltrated all aspects of life. And that's why, you know, people might be getting a little burnt on politics, because everything has become politicized. Everything. I don't get it, but you know, I'm here for it because I love talking politics, and I think if it's political, sometimes it just gets talked about more. But at the same time, I think people unfortunately jump to conclusions on the left and the right about things simply because their politicians are saying one thing versus the other.
Yeah. This is going to bother me now. I'm trying to figure out who it was.
There was a Northwestern teacher who was a Holocaust denier.
Huh.
Actually used a Northwestern website, like a .edu, to publish his thoughts on like how the Holocaust never happened. But he was like an old engineering teacher from Germany. So like he wasn't actually a history professor, so he wasn't teaching in his classes.
Yeah.
But it became a big thing because no one realized it, that he was a Holocaust denier. And then he started like using the northwestern.edu. It was his webpage, but it goes through that channel of the northwestern.edu. I remember him getting in some hot water. I think he got fired relatively quickly.
In the hot water?
What?
He got fired in the hot water?
No, he was in the hot water, and then he was in hot water, and then he got fired.
They pulled him out of the
They pulled him out. They pulled him out. He was drowning in it.
It's a harsh way to go.
What are you looking up?
I was trying to find out what the whole deal was with that teacher. I think I saw it on a YouTube video.
So what do you think it was? Just off the top of your head, do you remember?
It had something to do with like the way that his classroom was decorated. There was like he was in it. I think it had something to do with Marxist. I could probably just Google Marxist teacher fired. Oh, maybe it's California. That would make sense.
Really?
Maybe.
I would be surprised if a California teacher hanging a picture got fired.
Well, yeah, that was so. Oh, maybe this one.
Then again, there are some very, very, very red counties.
Yeah, you can see exactly where this information's coming from. Fox News. Let me just see if this is the guy. Give me the picture.
Did you see that the
Yeah, I think this is the guy. I'm not going to say his name. That was high school. But I'm not sure if this is exactly him. And it's also coming from, like... Guy also allegedly had a collection of stamps dedicated to communist directors. I mean, who cares? I mean, maybe he's just a collector. Oh. They did it because he wasn't teaching without bias.
So here's the thing about that. Like, there are certain issues that, yes, you should share both points of view. It's good. And in fact, there were plenty of times I had to show a non-biased view and an objective view that had both sides of things.
Yeah.
Obviously, things like abortion and gun rights and whatever, where there are really two sides. The problem is like we can't adopt that mindset for everything. Like you can't have two sides to the story when when teaching about the Holocaust or slavery. Like people want teachers to
I
teach in a way that like, oh, well, the South was, fighting for states' rights. Okay. What were the states fighting for? Slavery. No, there were other things. Maybe, but the number one thing that was named in all of the Confederate States' succession letters was slavery. So don't give me that bullshit that you want it to be framed around states' rights. It fucking wasn't. And it enrages me that people want to say,
Brian, calm down. We haven't even started the episode yet.
I know.
It says on here too, like he also described China's Cultural Revolution, a Mao-led purge that killed an unknown total between 500,000 and 20 million people during 1966 to 1976, as fixing the problem. Wow. All right.
Wait.
That's what the teacher described the China's Cultural Revolution as. A problem solver.
He's saying. See, I don't. That sounds very off. Because I don't think any historian has ever warmed up to the idea of Mao Zedong, or how Chairman Mao.
Maybe he was an English teacher.
He was an engineering teacher at Northwestern.
My gosh. Speaking of China, infrastructure. Oh, what is that movie about?
What movie?
Wheel of Time.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh.
It's just an ad.
Yeah. No, I know. I saw a preview earlier today.
You know what else is pretty crazy, and I know we talked a little bit off air.
Communism.
The Travis Scott Astroworld.
Yeah,
issue.
we have to say that on the podcast, Brian.
We do?
It's pop news. No, that's fine. I'm just kidding. Yeah, that is crazy. 7 people died?
8 people died.
8 people died.
The new estimate of how many injured was 300. I don't think that's obviously seriously injured.
Weren't they just trying to rush towards the stage?
I don't know. There's
because someone I know posted a Snapchat today saying we should cancel Travis Scott, and I said why. And I just didn't know what happened.
So
she didn't like my why though.
Who didn't?
The person who put that on their Snapchat. They're like, "Can we cancel Travis Scott already?"
Well,
but did he do anything? I didn't know he did. Did he do something wrong?
Well, there's a moment you can see in the video where he identified that there was a serious issue. He identifies there's an ambulance, there's a rush of people going on, and there are instances, and I will say this, I've seen multiple videos of other concerts, and you know who really has a good handle on that are people in metal and heavy rock.
Oh yeah,
they because they do mosh pit, they do those things, and it's they're very cognizant of one another.
You can find a million videos of the singer stopping and be like, "Hey, somebody help that guy out."
I watched one with Chester Bennington and Mike Shinoda of Linkin Park.
Mike Shinoda?
No, isn't his name Mike Shinoda?
It's Mike something. I don't know.
Mike Shinoda. Yeah, Mike Shinoda. Yeah, of Linkin Park, and they stop they're just ramping up into one of their huge hits, so it's gonna obviously just jack up the crowd, and. Chester says stop. Mike comes into the front, and then Chester comes in the front, and they're both saying stop right now, pick him up. And they talk about listen, this is what we do, we've talked about this, you guys know what to do. If someone gets knocked down, what do you do? And they hold the mic out and they say pick him up, the whole crowd goes pick him up, and they do it again and again. And it's just it becomes a cultural thing where that you're going to be safe, so you can have your best time, right? In these mosh pits where you might get jacked in the face and fall down, people are going to identify that just the same way you need to for others. And it's just a very communal feel. So there was that moment where he stops, but then continues dancing and singing right after.
Yeah.
And it's not hey, let me make sure that this is taken care of first. Okay, we're good. All right, now I'm going to go back to it. And so you see, like, the performance is going on, and these, like, medics are, like, taking people away, performing CPR on these golf carts. And it's absolutely bonkers. It's heartbreaking. 8 people died. And I don't think that this is like, hey, cancel Travis Scott for this. I'm not a big Travis Scott fan. But I'm thinking, like, okay, what if Kendrick Lamar, like, had this situation? I really like Kendrick Lamar. I think he has a great message. I think he's an incredible talent. And I wouldn't want him to just be canceled for this. It is a mess up, but it's not all on him. It's the promoters. It's the Houston police not having enough security there, which then gets billed to the, the artist in his promotional group and all that. Like, there wasn't enough planning, and you had 50,000 people in that one area, and it just was not properly set up.
Speaking of not properly set up, I'm on a roll.
I mean, we can hop into the podcast. You're like ready to go in.
No, I just thought that
we've already been live for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Man, I really do love that we're on YouTube live.
You should share the word. Spread the word. Put it on the Facebooks.
Yeah.
And while you do that, I am going to go potty. BRB.
Okay.
That means be right back.
Oh, shit.
Going back to the CEOs.
Sounds good, homie. All right. Anyways, I know we don't have any viewers right now, but we will continue to get views over time. I know some people like to tune in after, so I don't want to just have dead air here while Kevin's gone. I don't want people to immediately cancel someone for maybe inadvertently messing up. Like, this wasn't purposeful, similar to, like, the Aaron Rodgers thing was purposeful. So, like, if we're going to cancel people, like, cancel someone like Aaron Rodgers. I think a lot of people in Chicago would agree with that, having nothing to do with his vaccination status or his lying about his vaccination status. They just want him out of the division. But that was something that was way more purposeful, and that's why I have an issue with that. And it's not necessarily, he chose not to get vaccinated. It was the way in which he sidestepped everything almost purposefully. So that's what bugged me. Someone like Travis Scott, I don't think should necessarily get canceled for this, but it is definitely something that should be thought about a little bit more, and hopefully is a really good opportunity to
Our one viewer.
Learn about something like that. So, I was also thinking about Kyle Rittenhouse, with his trial going on.
Yeah. Should I be recording?
No. I mean, we are. We're live on YouTube. I was thinking about this, and I am still very frustrated by the whole situation. And one of our listeners, Ryan Johnson, actually reached out and was like, do you think this trial is going to be fair? Because, like, the judge was like, you can't call the people that got shot victims. Like, that's bullshit. But anyways, I was thinking about it. And, I think he's 18 now, but he was 17 when this happened. And I think he should get punished in some way. But I am sad, just the same as I would be as, like, a gangbanger in the city shooting someone and, like, now going to prison for life or whatever, 30 years. I think young people doing stupid shit that they don't understand the consequences for or the finality of it, right? Like, they don't get it. They don't realize that they have something to lose. They don't realize, like, what they're doing could really lead them down a dark path. And I think that's what this is. Like, I think Kyle Rittenhouse went down there to, like, into Kenosha to try being a hero because he's doesn't have maybe the proper guidance at home. He was drifting out of high school, and maybe getting brought down a dark path and didn't realize it. And he made a really big mistake. And it's like, so we're just going to throw another life away? Like, he killed 2 people and he deserves to pay for that. But man, to just throw another life away, like, who wins, right? There's no positive outcome from that. No one learns. It's just another person just wasting away in prison. Similar to all that we talked about in the prison reform. And I just got really sad listening to it. And I was just like, I think he deserves to get punished, but we just need a better system where people can learn and rehabilitate and become an effective part of society. And then we can learn from them. Like, he can go talk to people and say, listen, I fucked up here. Look at what happened. Look at what I did wrong. And you don't have to follow that path for whatever it is. I don't know. What?
Nothing.
Okay. All right. We ready to rock?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Noelle says.
Oh my gosh.
What?
One of her old friends' fiancés was one of the people that died at Astro World. Sorry to hear that, love. Probably, the people that went there that night did not really. It's very similar to what was the concert in Las Vegas? Whose concert was that?
I don't know.
Jason Aldean, maybe. Oh, the Harvest Music Festival. So there were a bunch of country stars, I believe. But like, you're going to this event, and you're just so excited. You've spent a lot of money, you've prepared, you've planned, you've arranged your meetup spot, where you're going, how you're getting there, the logistics of it, and then like to have something like that happen, man. I mean, do you ever just feel the weight of something? Like, you just feel it.
Yeah. I was gonna make a joke, but I didn't want to because you're having a moment.
Yeah.
Because I was gonna say 145 pounds of it.
Yeah, I just, man. Anyways,
all right. Well, let's talk about something positive.
Sure.
You know what? Because that is sad. I agree with you 100%, and I see what you're saying. Certainly, you're planning for a very exciting, a very fun day, a fun event.
Yeah.
And you don't expect for something so terrible to happen.
Yeah.
Life can be tragic. I have a riddle for you.
Okay.
It's a dad riddle.
Okay.
No Googling. What is a word that starts with the letter E and ends with the letter E, but only has one letter in it? And you're going to get it because you're a smart guy.
It starts with the letter E.
Yep. Ends with the letter E.
Oh, envelope.
Nailed it.
Yeah, you have to kind of like take a step back and visualize it.
Yeah.
I think I've heard that a long time ago, so it took me a second to recollect.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, so we're gonna start talking about infrastructure. As if I wasn't frustrated enough, I gotta think about Joe Manchin some more. Did you see the protesters? He did not have an easy life.
Joe Manchin?
Yeah, walking like to and from like congressional buildings, like people are just marching right behind him.
Yeah.
And then they stood in front of his car.
Kirsten Sinema deserves the same thing.
Yeah, she's kind of getting away with everything because I think everyone looks at her and is like, is she just ignorant, or like, because she hasn't identified any reason as to why she was so holed up and stalling everything. Whereas Joe Manchin, was very clear and made it very public that he wanted to stop it and do, what he thought was the right thing and, make it less expensive and all that. But really, he was just worried about his coal returns. Maybe he should start shopping at Kohl's.
Good one.
Thanks. All right, let's go. Let's podcast.
Let's go.
Let's break out. Come on, let's break out. Break out. Tell everybody break out. We about to, it's time. Let's go, let's ride, let's roll. Got me feeling so free now. It's exactly what I need. Yeah. We knocking down the door. Turn up a little more. Hey, what you waiting for? Break out. Oh, we on the map. I can take you now where the party at. We the ones that he just let into the bag. We the misfits.
And we are live.
We're live.
It's happening.
Always.
And forever.
And on YouTube.
Nice.
It has been on YouTube for the last 30 minutes. So for those of you that only listen to the podcast, make sure you jump on our YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com. Go up to that search bar. Type in MadLibs Podcast. And then go down just a little bit and click subscribe. Hop on. You'll get notifications when we come on live. And if you can't join us
If
live,
you hit the
can
notification bell.
Yeah. You can come back to that same channel and watch the video later.
Yeah. Time is limited. Sometimes you can't watch the whole video at once.
No.
But you want to see Brian's beautiful face in segments winking at you.
You can't get the wink on the podcast. I do appreciate people listening in.
Yeah.
We've stretched the MadLibs community all the way to South America in Colombia.
Yeah.
Lucia was a listener.
Yeah.
Hello,
Lucia.
She listened to the Metaverse episode, said she would listen to other ones, and then almost instantaneously wrote an email with feedback. And I was super excited.
Very good feedback.
Yeah,
too,
it was really
if
good.
I might say so.
She talked about, the issues with the Metaverse not coming from, is this okay from a moral standpoint, but more from an economic standpoint and how it would be adopted in third world countries, or the fact that it probably could not be. And then does it continue to widen the gap with the economic status of some countries? And I thought that was really brilliant. I think we might have mentioned it in passing, but we didn't focus enough on it. I know I certainly didn't. I mentioned we should really focus on this world before the next alternate whatever world. But I think it was definitely a valid point and a concern, and I thought it was great. So thanks, Lucia.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
I always love when we get feedback. I was going to say nice feedback, but I take constructive criticism well too.
I would agree to that. I would agree with that. I think it's important.
I do too. How are you feeling today, Brian?
I'm feeling good.
Yeah.
Speaking of constructive criticism, I was watching a stream today, and the person was actually watching Kitchen Nightmares, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. And I was watching, Gordon Ramsay kind of pick apart a restaurant, and he's not very subtle.
No.
He's actually quite brash. But he is amazing, excellent, best in the world at what he does. And so
He makes a killer cheeseburger.
he makes killer food all across the board.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And
I'm not trying to limit him to the cheeseburger. But
yeah.
I used the recipe once. It's delicious.
The idea, though, that he is so tough is, it showcases how people react, right? And a lot of times people become very defensive at first, and they kind of work through that and get to a point where they can start accepting that criticism, because they know if they do, they can process and learn from it and move to the next step. And that's exciting. Like when you see that click, it's all of a sudden a dramatic shift.
Yeah.
And it's usually in the episode, it's about midway through, and he sits down with the person and gets very calm and quiet and pulls back and starts to say, well, what do you want? You're not being real with yourself, or you're not being authentic here.
Yeah.
And that's when they start to really learn. And I
Yeah.
think, and there's generally that shift, and I love that part of the show.
I see where you're going with this.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Where am I going?
We need to Gordon Ramsay the government.
You got it.
Yeah.
So
Is that where you're going?
I was. So
Fucking.
I'm
Sorry,
not making the comparison that I'm the Gordon Ramsay of political podcasting, but sometimes I get very, very direct and harsh about certain aspects of government, but then I always try and peel it back just a little bit and kind of be really authentic and really calm about things, because I think it's important to do that. That's how I always coached. That's how I taught. And I think I try and be that on the podcast, but I just think there's so much potential here. And so that's why I want to be very direct and like quick to the point so we can start progressing faster.
And I'm not trying to say that I'm the Gordon Ramsay of sound engineering, but when Brian comes in hard and fast and loud, I turn him down.
So
he can see what he really wants to say.
So for those of you listening on the podcast, you can thank Kevin for me not blowing out your ears and popping them and whatever this filter thing does.
Pop filter.
Yeah, that's what it is. Whatever that does. I think
it keeps your consonants from being too harsh.
Yeah.
It also blocks when you're with your P's and your T's. And you can even hear a little bit, but pop. So
Yeah.
It's called a pop filter.
So it makes sense that my consonants aren't harsh, but
Well-
sometimes my commentary is.
Well, sometimes, yeah. Oh.
But that's important, and I'm going to be a little bit harsh tonight as well.
I'm
Because
probably going to be harsher.
Really?
You know I am. I'm so harsh.
Well, here's the thing about the infrastructure bill. Before we even get into it, it's like it's something that's been passed. It's one of the biggest, boldest infrastructure deals that has ever been, signed into legislation. So, like, that's good.
That is good.
But we want it bigger and bolder
And harsher.
and badder.
And beefier.
Where's the beef? That's
Yeah.
what we should be asking Joe Biden. He remembers that commercial. Where's the beef?
Yeah.
But not real beef. We need to start cutting back on that.
Yeah, my cholesterol. I have a doctor's appointment.
Well, not only that, it's just there's a lot. Well, you know what? I think we might talk about that. That was something that Lucia brought up. Was like, hey, we should talk about like meat production in America because it's so much higher. The meat intake in America is very high compared to like a lot of other places.
Oh, it's the number one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
number one. In all meat eating.
number one. So
Number one heart
we
surgeon.
might do that in the next. I know personally, I was vegetarian for about 2.5 months ish, and I reintroduced meat, and I could go back to scaling and kind of being in that in between. Certainly scaling back because there's so many other aspects. It's not just the animal issue; it's also like the water, the land, all of those things that also kind of get thrown into the mix.
Certainly.
So that might be something for another discussion. But today,
Let me ask you something, Brian.
yeah.
What did the infrastructure plan start at?
So the infrastructure, the Build America Back Better bill started off at 3.5. The original proposal by Joe Biden was $3.5 trillion, and that would be over 10 years. So about $350 billion a year would be spent on the infrastructure of America. Now they did lengthen the definition of infrastructure, where there was a much more focus on schools, healthcare, care for the elderly, pre-K, free pre-K, all of that stuff. So there was an expansion on what the term infrastructure actually meant.
I only ask that because I think it's important to note a couple of things.
Yeah.
First of all, it is important to say, you know what, it's nice to know that this is going to make its way through the Senate. It's going to end up on the president's desk
Yeah.
to be signed into law.
Yes.
Okay, that's great. It's awesome that got done.
It will be the largest infrastructure spending bill.
Yeah, the second,
history.
the largest before that was Eisenhower.
Yeah.
with the roadways, correct?
Something. Yeah, with the
Fact
like
check me.
interstate highways
Interstate,
and
yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's adjusted for inflation as well.
Correct.
Yeah.
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 It'd be like $586 billion
Yeah.
in today's monies.
Yeah.
It's a lot of monies. So that's important to note. It's awesome that happened. It's great that it's going to go through both houses, or both the House and the Senate. And it's nice that something was done in a bipartisan way, despite what Fox is doing to the Republicans who voted yes.
What do you mean by that?
They're calling them out, saying, like, here's the Republicans that voted yes on the bill in the House. That's what we were talking about earlier.
I know.
Oh, you
I
want
just
me to
want.
explain it to the peoples?
I was trying to give you the spotlight for a second, not have me just hogging it like I usually do.
Brian, the spotlight's all yours. I'm the audio guy.
Oh, so I'm the light guy?
No, dude, I do light too. Well, actually, no. You turned on.
We
You
split
turned
it.
on
We
a light
split
today.
it. No, well, yeah, but you turned it back on because we went in and ate pizza.
Yeah.
Came back and it was off. No. The first time we left to go walk to the restaurant, that's when it turned off. You turned the light back on. When we came back from pizza, I just turned it on. Oh, but then you turned it back on a fourth time.
The light's been turned on a lot today. That's the point of the story, and that's the point of the infrastructure bill. Keeping the
It
lights
changes over and over and over. Who's responsible?
Yes. So the bill that's making it through the through Congress right now is only 1.2 trillion. Now this adds in, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't it an additional 598 billion or 589 billion in extra spending?
In what sense? I don't recall. What do you mean?
So
extra spending?
added on. 550 billion in new spending investments.
Oh, yeah. In addition to what would have usually been in an
Correct. Yeah.
infrastructure
So
bill.
some
Yes.
extras, some little goodies.
Yeah.
And the way that I kind of read through this, Brian, was that it kept the focus on things like bridges, roads, broadband internet, things like that. And where we really lost out on this bill is maybe what I would call people infrastructure.
Yeah.
Provide. So it was a lot of support for homeless people. A lot of support for you don't see anything in there about like pre-K education or anything like that.
Oh, I think they kept that.
Did they? There's
Yeah.
Free.
Yeah, but they definitely pulled the Medicaid parts when it comes to Medicaid, there's hundreds of thousands of people that are on a waiting list to either receive Medicaid benefits or whatever the case is. They're not enrolled. Services given by Medicaid, whatever the case is. And what they were trying to do was guarantee all of those people on the waiting list an opportunity to receive Medicaid benefits.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, they definitely cut some things. So, like you said, they definitely stuck to, the hard infrastructure.
Correct,
like
yeah.
The tangible, like, here's some roads, here's some railways, here's some bridges.
Yeah. They did a little bit for, I think, the electric grid, which I was excited that was kept in there. And I think they also did a little bit, too, as far as, like, electric cars and buses and something like that. Yeah, $7.5 billion going towards electric cars, buses, and ferries.
Yeah, and I think that's important. Like, the transportation efforts, especially in metropolitan areas, are, bustling enterprises. And obviously, there's tons of buses on the move. There's trains and all of that. And, that's going to cause a lot of pollution. Similarly, electric vehicles being used as taxis is another way to continue to bring that emission status down. So I think there has to be continued development in that arena. But it was taken down. Like every single aspect of the Build Back America Better or whatever was shrunk just a little bit. So similarly, when we talk about railways, there's $39 billion going to, to do this, but it was anticipated to be $85 billion. And it's like, so why? Why are we taking that away? When we talk about, the infrastructure in ports and in airports and waterways, like why are we taking money away from that as an opportunity to continue building an infrastructure that America should be proud of.
It's and I don't want to get too far because I do want to go through and we can kind of say we can go further into like what was kept on there, and we'll definitely both be bringing up some things that we are disappointed that are no longer on there. I've already kind of stated a few. However, it's shocking to me when you go through this because you see things on the list like clean drinking water, taking care of the great rivers and lakes, stuff like that. Like these are things that like it's like when you buy your home, Brian.
Okay, I know how to do this. I've done it once.
Yeah. So you get your mortgage.
Yeah.
You go through all this shit. You prove that you have a job. You prove that you're doing this. You show that your credits, it's okay.
How do you know me so well? It's exactly what my loan officer was like. I can work. I can work with this. I can work with this.
Fine.
I can work with this.
But
you
you go
didn't think
through
to pay back those college dues? No. All right.
I thought they were grants.
That's what you. Yeah. I think I said that before. I thought they were grants.
Yeah.
Like you granted this money to me, and I don't have to pay it back.
Yeah, you didn't
Thanks,
say a
Mr.
grant
Pell.
with the repayment, motherfucker. So you get the house.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The house is beautiful. It's
Okay.
a great house, Brian.
Love it.
You have a beautiful home.
Thank you.
You know what's so great about your home?
What's that?
It's well kept.
Thanks, Noel.
Thanks, Noel.
I mowed the lawn yesterday.
Hey, thank you, Brian. Thank
Thanks.
you for mowing your
I
own
picked
lawn.
up the dog poo.
Thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Interesting that you do those things without thinking about it. Interesting that Noel keeps the house so clean and tidy and functioning.
Well, the reason I don't have to think about it is my wife tells me.
That's awesome. Interesting that you say that too, Brian. Because just like your lovely home,
Yeah.
we have a lovely home as a nation. It's called America. It's called the United States of America. And right now we're trashing the fucking house and not picking up after ourselves. And it's a dirty, stinky mess.
Yeah. I'm following
So
the
what
road
we
you're
need-
laying down.
Infrastructure roads, baby.
Yeah.
I like the road.
Yeah. Road.
And what I'm saying is, we need a Congress. We need a president. That's like Noel with your house.
Yeah.
Brian, when something needs to be done, government's got to be there to say it. Hey, you know what? We were kind of dumb. We dropped a bunch of sludge and pollution into our rivers, into our waterways.
Yeah.
Let's clean that up now.
Yeah.
And you look at this and you say, why did they argue so long about this? And, of course, we know the answer.
Filibuster.
No. What?
Well, they couldn't pass it as an actual legislative piece, so they had to go through
I see.
reconciliation
Okay,
to
okay.
avoid the filibuster because
Okay.
the Republicans have a 50-50 split.
Yeah.
And it's only one vote to decide that split, and they would have, but you need 60 to avoid the filibuster because the filibuster is bullshit. Oh, sorry, continue.
I mean, we know because you've got people like Manchin and Sinema.
Yes.
Which, by the way, I did remember what Sinema had said.
Oh.
And it was, Kristen Sinema was on,
She's the senator from Arizona.
she is. But
Very
she
right.
was on, I was watching it on PBS. I don't know what it originally aired on, but, and she was saying it was a long, hard fight. And we had to give and we had to take, and we really made our way to a great agreement. And when she was saying it, I equal rights. I wanted to punch her in the face.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I'm looking at her like, you're the reason this is held up.
Figuratively, you would never condone
No,
violence
no,
against
no,
a
no,
female nor
no.
senator. Just wanted to make that that very clear to the MadLibs community. As you know, Kevin, being such a wonderful young man, an upstanding citizen of America, would never do such a thing. But I do understand that sentiment.
But she has a punchable face.
Because
I would not punch her.
No, the thing is like it's so out of whack that she would say, well, we had a lot of work to do. Like, why? Your party is in power. This was a moment for the Democratic Party to move forward and get everything they want in their agenda done through the reconciliation process, at least regarding infrastructure.
Yeah.
Now, there would be some things, obviously, that, they have the voting rights bill and stuff that's outside the infrastructure bill. But it was an opportunity for the entire the Democratic Party to come together and get an entire agenda done that their president had set forth.
Yeah.
Now, it's still not as progressive as I would have liked, as it was at the $3.5 trillion.
Mm-hmm.
However, I was like, for a center guy like Joe Biden, I put air quotes for those of you on the podcast, for a center guy, I'm like, that's actually pretty good. That's a good step in the right direction. The problem is we went in the right direction because of Manchin and Sinema going very right and trying to cut to pieces the infrastructure bill, trying to cut it down. And at that point, now you don't even have that 50-50 split.
Right.
And that was something that was very detrimental on the first Tuesday in November this year, when we had an election in Virginia, and the Democrats, all that governor really ran on was Donald Trump is bad for this country, and that my opponent is running as a Trump apostle, and therefore you shouldn't vote for him. That's not good enough. You need to speak to what your party is doing for the country, specifically your state.
Yeah.
And he had nothing to bring to the table, and that is a big loss by the Democratic Party. Not to mention, when they finally wait it out and deal with this whole bullshit of Manchin and Sinema, they don't pass as much as they should. However, it is still the biggest, boldest infrastructure deal in American history.
Just because it's the biggest and the boldest doesn't mean it's what we need.
Right. It's good.
And that's the issue.
Good, but it's not good enough.
And you're listening to the deficit hawk of the two of us.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm not a deficit hawk, but I kind of am. No, I am. Fuck it. I am. Yeah, that's okay. I'm okay with it.
You're a deficit hawk in the sense that you do want us to spend more wisely. And I do too. I don't want to just tack on, me. I want to cut into the military budget. I want to cut into, careless spending. I want to make sure taxes aren't getting cut with no targeted approach in the spending of things.
Yeah.
So I get that. And you are like that. So for you to be saying the same thing.
Well, and therein lies your issue, because the reason that Sinema and Manchin didn't want this bill to go through is because it affected their pocketbooks. You know what I mean? It had to do with fossil fuels and restrictions, and it had to do with going green, and that affects obviously your fossil fuels as well. What was Sinema's problem again?
I really don't know.
She's just a bitch.
Well, I wouldn't say that.
I'm just kidding.
But I would say that, she definitely strayed away. She didn't really publicly comment that much as to why she was holding up the bill. All she was saying is we can't just spend all willy-nilly. She was saying, we can't spend on things without really going through the numbers. Yeah. And when push came to shove, Joe Manchin was able to give a number at least. Hey, here's my number.
Yeah. I know there was a lot of issue with the pay-fors too. So that was Sinema, the pay-fors, and it had to do with increasing taxes on people that make over $400,000 a year.
Well, the biggest pay-for actually got left out of the bill, and that was Joe Biden trying to raise the corporate tax rate.
Correct.
Back from 21% to 28%. So Donald Trump, as part of his tax cuts in 2017, lowered it from 28% to 21%. Now, mind you, at one point, we had a 39% corporate tax rate, right? So, it was up there. I think it was actually even higher at certain points before Reagan. But with that in mind, it's been lowered to a point where 21% is minimal. And also, Biden wanted to go after, I forget something. It was the actual corporate responsibility. So, to basically avoid the corporate maneuvering that can happen, where they were basically always going to be taxed 15% on certain corporations. So basically those got knocked out. Right. And so they didn't have as much money to spend. And so her being hung up on tax rates, Manchin being hung up on a lot of the green spending because he is so heavily influenced by the coal, fossil fuel industry, really played a big role in how they went and attacked Biden's Build Back Better for America deal.
For those of you that are listening and watching, And you're curious, what are the pay-fors? The biggest ones, and there is a breakdown that I found online. It didn't really have a whole lot of numbers with it. But it's really going to be coming from beefing up the IRS and trying to plug some tax loopholes. And then it's also going to come, a large portion of it too. Sorry, Brian, I keep tapping your sweet little knee with my foot. Also, some of it will be coming from leftover COVID money, like COVID relief fund money.
Yeah. Which is perfect. It makes sense. Like, that's money that's already been allocated somewhere.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere or hasn't been used. We saw that a lot with when we talked about the rent and eviction issues.
Yeah.
Right? Like, a lot of states were allocated these funds to protect, people from being evicted and also make sure that landlords weren't losing their ass because they couldn't collect rent checks from people. Right? And a lot of that money was being unused, like completely untapped, to the tune of like 90% in some states.
This is the governmental spending equivalent of like finding $20 in your pocket and some jeans that you haven't worn in a year.
Yeah. $20 in jeans. So how many jeans would we need to get to like a couple 100 billion?
2 3 pairs.
Okay, sounds good.
But you ever leave a $100 bill in your winter coat just to surprise yourself for the next year?
No.
I have.
No. You know what? So, funny story, to digress a little bit. So I used to work a lot as a bartender, and so we had, our black pants and our black shirt and whatever. And I lived in the basement when I was, living with my mom. I lived in the basement, which was right by the laundry. And so I didn't really have a basket. I would just, keep a pile there. And my mom was incredible and would, throw that in for me all the time. But the rule became, if I left money in my pockets, it was her fee. And like, it was like, hey, Brian, here's this money, and don't forget it. And eventually, I forgot like over $100, and it was a hefty laundry fee that week.
Yeah.
It was actually like $200, and she actually is like, I'm not keeping all this $200, but I'm keeping some. And I learned to empty out my pockets. That's all I had to do.
Yeah.
Was just empty out my pockets before dropping my pants and shirt over by the laundry machine, which my mom would often be very kind and do for me. So
yeah,
it was, you know what, the way I looked at it though, it was a fair trade. Like, she deserved it. She deserved way more. She was incredible.
Yeah. We both have incredible moms.
Yeah.
Infrastructure.
So let's talk a little bit about what actually was kept and at what rate.
Dig it.
So when we talk about the infrastructure bill, oh, that was a little peek. The obvious big spend was roads, bridges, and major projects surrounding those. And that's the $110 billion. And then you have passenger and freight rail at $66 billion, which was cut down from, I think, the $85 billion. Public transit was $39 billion. Airports, $25 billion. Port infrastructure, $17 billion, which we now realize how incredibly important that is right now, with the supply chain being absolutely bonkers. Transportation safety programs, $11 billion. Electric vehicles, $7.5 billion. Zero in low emission buses and ferries, $7.5 billion. And the revitalization of communities, $1 billion. This was one area that lost a lot of money. So the revitalization of communities, I want to say was going to be like 10 to 15 billion, and they lost most of that. I'm surprised it was even kept in there at all with the way Manchin and Cinema were going after things. Other infrastructure, we have broadband internet with $65 billion. Power infrastructure, so thinking about the grid like you had brought up earlier, was $73 billion. Clean drinking water, $55 billion. Resilience and Western water storage, $50 billion. And the removal of pollution from water and soil, $21 billion. And that was all presented in a wonderful NPR.org article. So any of those stand out to you where you're like, man, I really wish they would have spent more money on that. Like, I wish they would have kept the initial program in place, because all of them got reduced by little bits here and there, except the roads, bridges, and major projects.
Green energy, 100%.
So as I think there's a lot missing from green energy.
Absolutely. And I just wish that a little bit. No, you're fine. Good. You're good. Sorry, we're adjusting Brian's mic. If you were watching us on YouTube right now, you would know that. Ooh, I just winked. I think that that's such an important thing moving forward is green energy. And it's a pity that a lot of it was lost. And listen, obviously I wish the human element of this was more prevalent in the bill as well. I mean, obviously a lot of that stuff is gone too. I think a lot of things could have been done for the homeless communities. I think a lot more could have been done across the board, but we're just not really seeing it. So
why do you think they should have spent more on green energy in the infrastructure bill rather than just passing some other legislation? Why do you think it should have been included here?
Well, two reasons.
Okay.
Most importantly, you can see how long this fucking took to get through.
Yeah.
Okay? And you can see how chopped to bits it is. Every time something goes through Congress, despite what Cinema says, it doesn't have to be all give and take. It shouldn't be about Democrats versus Republicans and one angry libertarian named Rand Paul jumping into the mix and getting all pissed off.
Fair.
It should be, okay, this is the United States of America. Here's what needs to be done right now. It's just like I was saying earlier. Clean your house.
Yeah.
Keep your house in working order.
Yeah.
Our house isn't in working order. Why do we still? And then I'm kind of straying away from the clean energy, and I'm going to focus on something else for a second here too.
Sure.
Why are there still fucking lead pipes being used? Why haven't those been replaced already?
Oh yeah.
We know that's dangerous.
Yeah.
So it seems very, very silly. So that's why I think it should have been handled in this bill, because we're trying to push out one big thing. And I know that's, your homeboy, my future grandfather, Bernie Sanders, he was saying again, I think it was just yesterday, the day before, he was talking about how, we need to have a follow-up bill to this. But he's like, one of very few that are saying that. So
I agree. And, here's the thing. This isn't only at fault with Republicans in terms of spending. Like, one thing that never stops getting boosted is the military spending. They just approved a $768 billion military deal. And, so they're increasing the budget year over year, Democrat or Republican. It doesn't matter. And this is the problem. Like, when we say, oh, Joe Biden's a centrist guy, it is a very, very common centrist sentiment to continue building the military up. When it comes to, one thing that I really agree with progressives is, we need to stop spending so much on the military industrial complex. And I know you tend to be more centered and not agree with the amount that's being spent. So I'm not saying all people in the center or even all people on the right agree with the military spending. But this is something that comes into play is okay, if we're going to be deficit hawks, why are we spending so much money to defend something that is crumbling from the inside?
Also, where's the $768 billion coming from? Where's
Right.
Give me the pay-fors on that, Bri. Huh?
Well, and
where's that money coming from?
When we think about it, there was an increase of $25 billion as opposed to the last time. So they continue. I remember when Alex Rodriguez signed a $252 million deal with the New York Yankees. So it was the largest contract in baseball history at the time. And before that contract was over, he signed an extension worth $272 million. So they basically renegotiated the years he had left and then tacked on another 7 or 8 years or whatever. And so I look at that, and that's similar to what keeps happening is we don't even finish out a full military contract spending bill before we're already adding more for the next 10 years or whatever the case is. And that's where I start to really have issue is in America, I have no problem with that we spend and have the largest military in the world. But the comparison is, the next 10 countries combined don't equal our spending.
Yeah.
So
I'm okay with having the biggest.
I'm okay with having the biggest.
And the bestest. But,
yeah.
Listen, I do. I'm curious about that. I'm probably going to try to look that up when I go home.
So, and here's the thing.
Yeah.
181 Democrats, 135 Republicans push this bill across.
Interesting that it's more Democrats than Republicans.
Right. Because
I mean, that's seriously.
Because
I'm not poking
Democrats-
fun. I think that's
no,
very
no, no.
interesting.
Because Democrats can so some Republicans claimed. Well, there's also less. So you got to think about that.
That's true.
So, but also, so you would probably actually think percentage-wise, there's more Republicans voting yes on it percentage-wise within their party.
Mm-hmm.
But with that said, it's about even, and it's very, very highly supported because Democrats don't usually get called out for that. But that is something that Republicans have to answer for, is like, where is the money going that we do spend? It's always okay to spend more on the military. And one thing about this infrastructure deal that got cut, and I'm surprised that the Republicans fought so hard against it to get it removed, was the spending on veterans.
Right.
So the veteran hospitals were supposed to give, I think it was like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it was like $30 to $50 billion over the 10 years. And it was supposed to continue developing like treatment programs, more money to the hospitals, more outreach to get veterans to actually come in, homeless veterans, all of that. It was supposed to provide more efforts to veterans, and it got ditched. And I'm like, who went against that? And that's one of the issues I have when we talk about voting on different measures and like, why didn't that part pass? I want to know who specifically, by name, Mitch McConnell, who voted that part out. Whether it's education, whether it's healthcare, whether it's veterans affairs, whatever the case is, I want to know who redlined what, who actually extracted that piece out. Not just Republicans or Democrats. I want to know who, by name, who asked for that piece to be removed. I'm going to stop saying who because I'm starting to sound like an owl, and I'm done.
Speaking of voting and Mitch McConnell,
Yeah.
we'll start a poll. I'll put a poll up on this YouTube.
Up his ass.
It's very simple, but it was very funny.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You deserve it, Bri. Let's take a poll. When Mitch McConnell talks, I said it sounds like he has molasses in his mouth. Brian says cockroaches.
I did it for the imagery.
I understand that. I just can't stand listening to him talk.
No.
I mean, I know bullshit sounds bad, but I didn't know it sounded that bad. Moving on. So, I do want to ask you this.
Oh, can I say one thing? One last thing? Just to make sure that we do have it in there. The pre-K for all 3 and 4-year-olds was included in the slimmed down version, and this is per NPR as well. Investments in affordable housing, premium reductions under the Affordable Health Care Act, or Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. Major investments aimed at addressing climate change and an additional year of expanding the child care credit. So for a lot of you at home, you probably have recognized all of a sudden $250 if you qualify, if your family is under a certain threshold for the household income. You've been getting $250 to $300 as child care tax credits. They've actually been, instead of tacking it on as a deduction at the end of the year,
They just give it to you monthly.
You could be getting a check monthly, and that's actually something that's very beneficial to families. I think it raised, what was it? I think 12% of people are no longer impoverished. I don't know. It raised a bunch of people out of poverty.
Yeah, well, because that
Just by
number goes
having
up,
that
too, if you have multiple kids.
Right. So it was able to raise many families out of poverty here in America, which is,
Dope.
to me, very exciting.
Yes. It's very awesome.
Okay, sorry. Your question.
I don't remember. I'm just kidding. I totally remember,
Okay.
Brian. I took my alpha brain today.
Okay.
So at the top of the hour here, the hour on YouTube, the 38 minutes on the podcast, I think we're both very disappointed in this bill.
Yes.
I want to ask you this.
Yeah.
Because when I texted you and I said, Bri, what are we talking about on Sunday? And you brought this up, I said, okay, I got to start watching some stuff.
Yeah.
And I was very disappointed with the way that this was handled, and a prime example of, or the way that it was celebrated. And I've alluded to this earlier in the podcast, and I think maybe you have a little bit too, Brian, but I think that they're selling this as like this grand think that we should all be jubilant. Jubilant. Thank you. Jubilant about. We should all be super excited. We should all be, oh man, throw your hats in the air. And I just don't think it's that. A prime example of this is I was watching NPR. Or not NPR, PBS, sorry.
Okay.
Kevin's favorite news network.
I love it.
They did the wrong abbreviation when they were making the acronym, but that's okay.
Public broadcasting?
No, because I said it's Kevin's favorite news network.
Oh,
That would be
KNN.
K. Well, with the F in there too, KFNN.
Caffeine.
Caffeine. Nailed it.
You have a new... Okay, sorry, continue.
And one of the, she's an anchor that's on there quite often. I don't recall her name, nor do I care to share it anyways, because I would never want to publicly, not shame someone, but call someone out, I suppose. Well, I do it all the time. Politicians.
That's not a politician. It's just someone trying
Yeah,
to do a
exactly. And she said that, this is really Joe Biden, getting his white whale, catching his white whale.
job. Yeah.
And I just, that's so stupid because it's not. He's getting like a stripped down, worse version of the white whale. He's getting like a tiny white whale. Like, great. You got it through Congress as a bipartisan bill. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. My hat's off to you, sir.
Yeah.
However, it's not the bill that you intended.
Right.
And I know he's out there saying that, like, oh, I'm anticipating an add-on bill to this, or
Yeah.
but no, like that's not the way that it should be. And so I'm disappointed in that.
Yes.
And I just wanted to get, now that I've gone into this lengthy
No, you need to share your
disclaimer,
opinion.
but my question to you is, what are your thoughts on it? Are you as happy as everybody on the news is? I guess depends on your news network, I suppose. I didn't take it as this great victory that it is. I think that it's a win,
Yeah.
but I don't think it's really worth the celebration that's being put into it.
So I look at it this way. I think it's a huge win for what we're given. In the sense that, A, it's the biggest infrastructure spend, including inflation, right? At least to my knowledge.
No, you're right.
So
Fact check.
It's the largest infrastructure spend in history. I think there's a lot of progressive aspects. I think it was slimmed down. Unfortunately, like, I do wish there was more. And I think to say, oh, well, we're going to, look to pass other legislation. Sure, you're going to try, and I don't think you're going to have very much success due to the filibuster. But with that said, I am disappointed in the sense that I wish there was more. I really do. I wish there, but we have to look at the circumstances, and it's not Biden's fault. Any fault that I have really falls on Manchin and Sinema, because listen, you as a Senate majority, you need to have your whips and make sure that your people will pass the bills and abide by the agenda given by the party leader, right? So if you're Republican, the party leader right now is McConnell, and the party leader on the Democrat side is Joe Biden, and then you have Schumer and Pelosi. But with that in mind, there's only so much they can do. So I do think that there should be some celebration, but it really needs a lot of reflection on this still isn't good enough. It's just not. It's a very, very good start. And considering how razor thin this was, I mean, the fact that they got anything passed before the midterms for me is like, well, at least we got that.
Yeah. Well, they needed it before the midterms, that's for sure.
Right, because, the midterms are really up for grabs.
Yeah. And not to interrupt you, and I
go ahead.
apologize.
No.
But I think this is very important for the midterms, and also the fact that and you brought up the child care credit or tax credit. That is actually up for renewal just before midterm voting.
Right. And so
Stacking up the cards.
I think that's important, that hopefully families from all over recognize, blue or red, whatever your house votes for, you need to realize, like, there was a party taking care of you in this instance. Now, some might oppose spending in general, blah, blah, blah. I had a conversation with someone today where it was all about, well, they're just spending money like it's free. And it's like, well, no. For the infrastructure bill, this was all paid for, and here nor there. So how do I feel about this? To go back to your question, let me venture back here. I'm disappointed in the overall bill. But with that said, it still needs to be celebrated that they were able to pass the largest infrastructure spending bill in history. And it's something, there are things that under most other administrations, certainly any Republican administration, that never would have gotten passed. Universal pre-K schooling, taking, affecting the cost of premiums on the Affordable Care Act. These are things that would have never happened under even the most progressive Republican president, given the current state of the Republican Party. And would a more progressive president, like if Bernie was, voted in as president, would he have been able to get this done? I don't know. Because a lot of moderates are very concerned on spending. And if there's any frustration for me, it has nothing to do with Biden, right? The fact that this got passed at all is a huge win. Similar to the Affordable Care Act, right? It was a huge win. There were a lot of flaws in what came of it because there was so much change by the time it was proposed to the end. But it still needs to be celebrated similarly to how the Affordable Care Act was passed. So do I have my disappointments? Abso-fucking-lutely. I'm so far left of most people because I think we can do so much more. That, yeah, I'm very disappointed with certain aspects. But, boy, I would, for once, I'm just saying, taking a step back and saying, you got to at least celebrate the little victories here.
Little victory, yes.
I mean,
I'm not saying it really isn't that little. I'm not. I was just playing off of what you said, to be honest.
Yeah, it's littler than it really could have been.
The only thing I would disagree with you on is I put a little bit more of it on Biden's shoulders than you do. I'm sure. I know that it really breaks down to what's going on in Congress, but I just think that more can be done.
I mean, look at it this way. Like, it's a 50-50 split in the Senate, right? Like, you knew you had the House. And there were, 6 Democrats that voted against it? Including Omar and AOC. Like, they voted against it because they were like, we need to be continuing to use this as leverage for the Voting Rights Act and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. Because now there's no way the Voting Rights Act passes without removing the filibuster. So the next item of business in Congress after this is fully signed is removing the filibuster so shit can actually get done.
Wrong.
Okay.
Next order of business of Congress is taking a 2-week recess.
Fair. Yeah, that's what they're actually going to do. I'm saying actual, business. They need to get to work on removing the filibuster in time. So
what a bunch of
here nor there. So there were multiple Democrats. It was 6-10, somewhere in there, but 13 Republicans did jump in. So I think the House, you knew you had it, and that's great. But you had Manchin and Sinema fighting this tooth and nail the whole way. So much so that Manchin said he might go independent.
Yeah, go for it.
Well, and I'm saying good, go for it. And I hope you get primaried out by either the Republican or Democrat that can, easily move you out. Because
first time Brian would celebrate a Republican win. It's okay. Soak it in. It's okay. It's okay. Shh. Anyways.
This is just going to turn into an ASMR stream with me just huffing and puffing into the microphone.
And me shushing him like my child.
Yeah.
And it's shushing in a comforting way. Shh, 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 shh. Like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's okay, big dog. It's okay. And that right there, kids, is the sound of fucking friendship. Boom. Welcome to it. Be envious. Be jealous.
Yeah.
You'll never get to this level.
Yeah.
Maybe you will.
Yeah.
I hope you do.
I don't think I would celebrate a win over Joe Manchin if it was a Republican, but I would feel indifferent because I'm like, he's already a Republican.
It's a big step for you.
He's already a Republican. What's the fucking difference? Now, I'm hopeful that he is faced with a similar consequence like what's his face in New York that AOC came in and said, you're not doing the job, even as a Democrat. You're just not doing your job for your constituents. Because here's the thing. There was a billionaire tax that was being floated around. And Joe Manchin said, no, that can't be a part of this. There was a 2% wealth tax. I think the unrealized gains tax, basically when people get, massive options and stock opportunities, that was going to be taxed. And so Joe Manchin said that wasn't going to, that was not negotiable. Like, that's not going to happen. And there's not a single billionaire in West Virginia. Did you know that? So I didn't know what constituent he was trying to protect other than some massive donor to his political action, his
Political
super PAC.
campaign.
Yeah. So I don't know what he's doing, but I know he's very self-serving, so I would like to see him gone. And if it's a Republican, I don't think it would be any different than what we're seeing now. I'll put it that way. That's how little respect I have for him. Meanwhile, if, say, Adam Kinzinger moved to West Virginia and said, I'm going to run for Senate against Joe Manchin, I would absolutely support Adam Kinzinger, even though he has said he's stepping down from his campaign for his representative position.
Anything else on infrastructure, Brian?
No, I think, this is really important. And like I said, I am very excited that a lot got done. I think unlocking pre-K for 3-4-year-olds really allows for families to continue to move forward in terms of their income. They're spending less on childcare. It affords a lot of people, when we had this huge labor, quote unquote, labor shortage, a lot of people were discounting the fact that there were a lot of mothers or fathers that left the workplace to go work from home or lost their jobs, and then realized that they were basically making money to then send their kids to childcare. So what was the point? And I think that's a major move, and I think it allows people to either go back to work if they want to, or take less of a burden should they need to, right? So if they have to go back to work and they don't have the opportunity to stay at home and raise their kids, or they don't want to, they now have the opportunity to go back sooner. So go back to work at the age of 3 or 4. Now you're making more money, you're building more wealth for your family. That's a great opportunity should your family choose to do that route. I'm very excited about that. I think there's going to be a lot of efforts by the Biden administration going forward to continue developing some of those green energy plans. I know at the G20 conference, Biden apologized for the prior administration exiting the Paris Accord and said that there was going to be efforts to kind of catch back up. And so I'm excited to see that. I'm sad that it wasn't part of the infrastructure bill. That's probably the part that saddens me the most.
And I don't like when Brian's sad, so government, get your shit together. Yeah. All right, you guys. Well, thank you so much. I hope you guys enjoyed yourselves.
Yeah.
Hello to our friends in Colombia.
Yeah, Lucia, and everyone else that reaches out, we really appreciate it. Continue to give us constructive criticism.
Please.
Let us know
constructive
feedback, I should say.
We used to say this at the end of every show, but I don't know if we have been. Let us know what you guys want to hear us talk about.
Yeah.
We'll talk about what you guys want us to talk about.
Yeah,
for sure.
and I think it's fun when we do get to talk about things
Yeah.
in the general news, but outside of politics. But really, politics is my passion, and Kevin and I kind of built our whole conversation around politics to start with, really, and built it from there. So
we built it like a good infrastructure.
Yeah, we have a really good infrastructure. So
We
with
do.
that said, continue to help us build the infrastructure. Spread the word. Like and subscribe on our YouTube so you get the notifications when we go live. On our podcast, we're on Spotify, Apple, and
All
so
that
many
stuff.
more. I found out, yelling at Alexa, hey, Alexa, play the MadLibs podcast. We pop up now.
Dope.
Yeah, so that was really cool. With that said, continue to spread the word. Let your friends know about this. Tell them. Like and subscribe and continue to build the community and let us know what you want to be talked about. This is your community too. So thank you. Do good. Be great. Love you.
Love you guys. Save. Nailed it.
Save. What'd you think?
I think I'm going to go punch politics in the face. No, I liked it. It was good, Brian.
No,
Podcast was great.
Yeah, not only that, any final thoughts, to our YouTube community? Any parting wisdom about infrastructure, politics, life?
Gosh. I want something witty to come out of my mouth right now, but the many hours at work this weekend are catching up to
You
me a
want
little
something
bit.
witty to come in your mouth?
Not on YouTube. Or ever, but that's okay.
I didn't realize I went that route. I didn't realize I did that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I didn't. And then, yeah. You just say come out, and I was like, oh, better than coming in. And I was like, oh, no. As soon as sometimes you say things, the words come out, and you just can't grab
take
them back.
No take backsies.
No. We could edit it out, but it's okay.
Yeah.
I'm fine with looking like a fool sometimes. That's the point of a podcast. That's the point of being on stream, interacting with the peeps, giving them what they want.
Yeah.
Give the people what they want.
I give the people what they want.
Yeah.
Brian Arns.
Yeah.
That was me quoting you from the Hot Ones episode.
What? Oh, yeah.
And I give the people what they want.
Yeah. And I did. And then I puked it up. Which you can see on Kevin's Instagram. Or was it the MadLibs podcast Instagram?
No, I put it on the MadLibs podcast Instagram. I got to get some more pictures on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll do some today.
Cool.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for watching. Appreciate you guys. Brian, I appreciate you the most. Sorry. I'm looking at me in the video monitor, and I need to be looking at you guys.
Yeah. They're the most important part.
Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you. Look at that. I kept eye contact with them while pointing at you, Brian. Be proud. Brian winks.
My wife is probably so uncomfortable with them just staring at the camera and winking.
They're just
over
staring.
and over.
Noel,
She's probably
staring at
making
you.
she's probably making ornaments right now. She likes to have us on in the background. She doesn't want to look at me, but she's probably doing these ornaments or whatever. And the incredible artistic ability of my wife. I told
incredible.
her. Yeah, I told her today. Like I paused and I said, "It's not just because I'm your husband." And it's not just because I'm your husband. It's honestly, like, it shocks me how easily like calligraphy and like penmanship comes to her.
Yeah.
In an artistic, like, just incredible. And so she does ornaments and stuff like that. So she's been cranking those out for people. Some people on the MadLibs community actually know of that. And yeah, so wow. She's probably listening right now, and now she's shaking her head like, God damn it, Brian, shut up.
Yeah. Nah. All right. We love you guys. Thank you guys so much. Tune in next time. We'll be live on Wednesday.